Well, good morning, guys, and welcome to the show, Fernando.
Oh, we have the same shirts. Welcome to the show.
No, different. Yours has a star, mine doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember I said we made none of them that were the same. Either way, hey guys, today we have a Bronco.
No way.
I know, these are becoming like Jeep Wranglers. I'm excited though, because this one is a first for us in that we've been getting a lot of the non-amplified Broncos, which are great. We've worked our way through all those, but this one is a BO system. So today, you're gonna learn all about integrating into a Bronco with the factory Bang & Olufsen system. We're putting a banging system in this thing. Banging, bro. And yeah, let's just roll the intro and I'll tell you all about it. So for those of you that are new to the Bronco, let's hop inside and we'll take a look at what is happening and we'll just kind of work our way through it. First off, this one does come with the big touchscreen. How sexy is that? As you can see, the nice thing about having shiny touchscreens in your dash is that, well, we know exactly where you touch most of the time, which is right there. How cool is that? So this Bronco is got a center channel located up here behind this grill here. We have speakers in the corner here. You have this cool little BO logo. This is a 4.5 all the way across the dash, another one over there. We have a 6.5 down here in the kick that absolutely sucks. In the rear of the vehicle, located behind the hard to see headrest, that guy, you can see that little thing right there is a 4-inch. And then if we head to the back of the vehicle, we can see the factory subwoofer is located right here along with the factory amplifier. As you can see, this guy is going to upgrade to a box on the tailgate. This is an MTI box for a JL Audio sub. We are going to be putting in a whole bunch of fun and excitement into this because, hey, it already has a Bang & Olufsen system in it. It's a premium audio system, so a basic upgrade is probably not what you want to do in this. It's DSP'd, it's got equalization, it's got time, it's got all the fun things from the fact, much as you might not like it, it's still done to it. So basic 5-channel upgrade in this, probably kind of silly. And if you're just gonna plan on putting tweeters in the dash, where there's a 4-inch, okay, bad idea. Let's see what we're gonna be doing here. He is doing the 6.5-inch pods. These are MTI pods for the rear. He had already ordered these before he came to us and we're like, yeah, you got them, we'll put them in. I'm not really a fan of 6.5s in the rear just because these are tiny boxes. To me, it just seems counterproductive. You go with what you like. Anyways, we got these. We're gonna put a set of Focal Flax 6.5s in there. Love these speakers. We also have a set of Focal 6.5-inch components that we are gonna be adding the 2.5 to. So we're gonna be doing a full 3-way set up front. We're gonna be using a Nighthawk and a Blackbird from Arc Audio. Blackbird is the 8-channel DSP with 12 channels of output. The Nighthawk is gonna power this right here, which is the JL Audio 13 TW5 V2. And then we have these, which is gonna allow us to integrate these in the tweeter and the dash. These are the Stereo Steve dash panels, which we'll take a look at in a minute. We have a grill for the sub as needed. Integration for this is going to be done using the AP4 FD31. We have some Sound Shield sound treatment in order to take care of the rattles that you're going to get in that front speaker. He also got the MTI front speaker brackets. We'll take a look at those in a little bit. We might modify these to more of our liking. So that's the equipment we're putting in. Now we need to head over to the vehicle and get started. Let's hop inside and Fernando's gonna tell us about getting to these factory speakers.
Removing the dash grills on the Bronco, grab your pry tool and just carefully pry it out. Kind of work your way around. And this one comes out very easily. It has 5 metal clips. Just be careful, don't pry it from here. If you do, just carefully try and don't pull it this way. It has 2 7mm and the 4-inch comes out. You have your clip, push down and the speaker comes out.
Let's take this over to the bench and we'll see what we're gonna replace this with. Let's take a look at some speakers that are going in this. These are some of our #1 selling speakers, one of my personal favorites, the Focal Flax series. Now, the original people that sold him on the system, we were not the intended seller on this. Somebody else put together a system for me, brought it to us, and we changed all of it because, well, most of it wasn't really gonna work in the vehicle. They had it set up for a 6.5-inch mid bass and a tweeter in the top of the dash, taking out this coaxial 4-inch driver that's in there from the factory. That's right, this is a coaxial. We have a tweeter here in the center, a mid bass here in the back, and the plan from the original was to remove this and just put this in there. Luckily, we're like, that's a really bad idea. Let's not do that. So we got him a pair of the Focal Flax 2.5-inch mid-range to make this a 3-way set. This set of the Flax is the PS 165 FXEs. And it comes with a 2-way passive crossover located here. Focal does make some of the prettiest looking crossovers for sure out there. Nice, big, not very easy to put. These are made to be on display. Fortunately, we're not going to be using them. We have the TAM tweeter. I like to call the coffee tweeter because it has this like coffee look to it that's really nice. It comes with this ring around it. You can remove the ring by pushing down, and you can also remove the grill if you need to get just to the tweeter itself. For right now, we are going to leave those things on because we don't want any damage to happen to it. The mid bass is this guy right here. This is the Focal, and it says right here laser etched in the top, made in France, as well as all true Focal speakers are gonna have this serial number here laser etched in the surround. So if you've ever got a Focal and you're like, hey, how do I make sure it's legit? It's right there. What makes the Flax so unique is that it uses this cone, which is a flaxseed cone. Big magnet on the back. It does have this plastic on there, so make sure you remove it. This has like a record look to it. It's really kind of pretty. Aluminum basket, nice size voice coil, butyl rubber surround. This thing should sound fantastic in the kick. In the dash to sit next to our tweeter, this guy right here. This is the 2.5-inch mid-range. This is the PS 165 F3E. Same Flax material cone, butyl rubber surround, aluminum basket. Speaker terminals on these are really nice. They're not just generic speaker terminals. They are screwed into place. This is a premium speaker that's going to give us a premium sound. Comparing what we're putting in to what we're taking out, this is the 4-inch speaker that was in the dash. You can see there's that tweeter that is located in there. The BO system basically has a 3-way set up front. Tweeter, mid-range, mid-bass. The non-BO system, this tweeter is not in it. That's why it doesn't have that really nice tick to it. It's kind of lifeless. But if we took this out and just replaced it with this one little tweeter, all that nice vocal range that comes out of the top of the dash would be gone. You wouldn't have that nice sound, and everything would have to then come out of the kick panel or from behind your head. So it's going to have this weird effect to it. I don't recommend it. So then the next question is how are we going to take and move this and somehow get both of these in place? Of course, you could probably make a cool little coaxial like this, which isn't a crazy idea, but no. For that, we had him reach out to a friend of ours, Stereo Steve, that makes a really nice pair of dash pods for this. Comes with a bag of screws, and they wrap everything in these microfiber cloths, which is kind of nice. And they're nice microfiber cloths. They feel good. All right. Get this off here, pull this open and pull it out. And here we have them. They're the 3D printed grills to go up into the dash. This guy here will fit just like this. TAM tweeter is designed to drop into place here. There is a little notch located right there that matches up with the little notch that is on the tweeter. And these guys should really tight. I don't want to push them all the way in yet, but yeah, it's going to friction fit and stick into place, and what we'll end up with is something that looks like this up in the dash. I'm pretty excited to do that for sure.
If you never remove the kick panel speaker on the Bronco, it's 2 pieces, one in the middle, one in the front, and of course the B pillar. To remove in the front speaker, we're gonna start here. Grab your fingers. You don't have to pull it crazy. This one comes out very easy. There you go. So it has a bunch of clips. We have our toes so we don't lose any screws from the top or from the bottom. So we just put them in there. The front piece, same thing. Just grab it. On the right side of the door, we have another clip. So grab your pry tool carefully. You just have to pull it out a little bit. Then there you go, that's a clip. Remove the grill. The grill has some clips. Same thing. Start from the front and pops out. It has 2 clips on the front and 2 tabs that you just have to slide this way. And now, you see, comes out very easily.
Is it fragile?
It's very, very fragile. So you can see, like, this is very flimsy. We're gonna do some work in this later on. Then from there, we have 3 7mm. It's like a regular 4. You factory clip on the bottom, push down, and we have our 6.5.
All right, let's take it over to the bench and see what we're gonna replace it with. For the factory speaker that we'll be taking out, it is this paper cone, foam surround, plastic basket having. The magnet is actually pretty substantial, but otherwise, what would be considered a more or less very basic speaker. This is what we're upgrading it to, a substantially bigger driver here. He bought a set of these here that are designed to go into place of the factory speaker. This is more of a universal fit in that the factory you see has these bigger tabs here on the bottoms, the smaller tab here on the top. These do not, they just share the same tab all the way around. These are made out of HDPE, it feels like. It's either that or, I think that's what it is. It's textured on both sides. Either way, got these from MTI. These will go in like this and allow us to mount this up. A couple things we need to check, of course, are the mounting depth. We want to make sure how far this can go in. And of course, the most important thing on the Bronco is actually not how deep it goes in, but how far it sticks out. This is all the room we have here, and the way this is designed is this guy touches that front trim bezel, and as you can see, the different designs of the speaker are what make all the difference. So when you look at like this guy here, if you pinch this down here, the foam ring sticks up just a little bit. However, when you add in this grill to it like this, it's designed to sit, and that surround goes inside of there. So all of this energy comes through this grill. The problem we have now is that when we put this guy on, a little tighter squeeze than the factory, it will fit inside of the ring, which is what you're hoping for. You still need that little gap of space that this foam provides for you. So simple piece of foam may do it, might not. We just have to make sure when we add up the distance from the back of this to the tip of this, it doesn't get in the way of the grill. And that's when you compare the two here, and that is what makes the biggest difference. So we do have some space. That means we have our work cut out for us, because we want to make sure that this guy doesn't bang up against this and do anything like this, or that all the air gets through and rattles, because that is a very popular thing in these to do, and we are going to have a ton of power going to them. We don't want them to do silly things. So we'll take a look at this and modify it if need be to fit our style of installation. For right now, let's go back into the vehicle and see how these dash speakers are going to fit into the top, what modifications we need to make to beneath them, because I know we're going to need to. To mount these Stereo Steve grills into the corner, the first thing I need to do is remove these two metal clips. And how you do that is there's a little tiny U shape here. Put a pick tool on that and lift it up, and then these will slide right out. We've also, as you can see, covered the corner of the dash here, because we're gonna have to be doing some grinding with the JK interior film. You can see right there, it's got a little nipple. Pull up on it and just wiggle it out and repeat it on the other side. Fit it into place, and as you can see, this area here and that area there are in our way. With a silver Sharpie, we'll trace both of these areas here and here. With those two areas traced, let's take a look what we came up with. And that's what we have to remove. As you can see, that's also why we put all this green stuff all over the place, is because this is going to be really fun. Now to do that, we'll need to use some form of like a roto zip or some kind of a grinder to get up in there and make short work of this. I'm gonna use my Milwaukee roto zip with the smaller battery on it to get it up against the windshield. And that gets this area cleared out. Now the one thing you have to note is that if you decide you want to do this, this is a one and done. You're not putting that factory speaker back in here. So plan on keeping those speakers in this dash. Time for some test fitting. Alright, there we go. There are 4 screws that need to go in, located in each one of the corners. And once those go in, then this bracket will be permanently mounted. I'm gonna wait to do that until we get all of this put together, and then we'll just drop it into place. There's really no reason to do that yet because I don't wanna have to like install the tweeter and install the mid. It'd be way easier just to do that out on the bench and, you know, not have to worry about poking a hole in there. So it'll be all put together like this.
I'm going to make a back piece with sound treatment for this speaker location. So I use the JK tapes interior protectant film, as you see, and then just grab a Sharpie and kind of like mock it up. I just take it out. This is gonna be our piece that we're going to cut. So let's take it to the bench. Now we have our template. We just put it in. And we're gonna cut it. This part right here is where the actually door clip is. Now we have the driver's side. Now flip it over. Now you have a mirror image for the passenger side. We have passenger side, driver's side. Boom. Now let's go to the car and stick it in. Peel it off. Now you're gonna kind of fold it. Grab a roller. Just go all over. Now I used to have a small piece in here. I'm gonna put another strip in this part right here. I'm gonna put another strip in the back.
Now the reason why we want to put the sound treatment on the inside as opposed to around the outside is that we need to not take up any of the height there. So we need our bracket to sit flush up against that metal. Get that speaker in that hole as far as possible.
We finished putting the sound treatment on the corners. You gotta be careful when you put in sound treatment on this side and in the bottom, because right here on the corner you have your factory clip, right? So you don't wanna cover it, and when you put the panel back, it's not gonna go in. The bottom side, of course, we put sound treatment in this corner right here. It's a clip on the bottom side that you kinda lift it up, use like a small screwdriver, and the whole thing comes out. There's a big hole over here. As you see, we remove just this cheap foam and put a sound treatment from the front, and we put the sound treatment on the bottom. So it's 2 pieces. Now let's go to the bench and we're gonna cover the plastic panel with sound treatment.
You went full baked potato on that.
What am I?
Are you okay?
Yes. So we finished the sound treatment. We use the sound shield for this. This is our grill. We put all over here, all over there. On the driver's side, of course, you have the 2 10mm, and that comes out. We put sound shield in here and all over the place. We not cover this because this one actually snaps in to the panel. It has a clip, so it's not gonna move. But as you see,
yeah, I'm thinking that's gonna be way nicer.
it's way nicer. I mean, it's heavy.
Yeah,
You know?
that's good. I can't wait to get it in and see how it sounds.
Yeah.
Or hopefully how it doesn't sound.
So I'm gonna put another strip right here. As you see, this one just plastic well, so I'm gonna put another piece, another strip right here. So actually, you know, we give it the best chance.
Driver's side done.
Driver's side done.
On to the passenger side.
Let's go.
We've came up with a plan for mounting these door speakers. We are going to use the brackets that I got, but we have modified them a little bit. The first thing we've done is we added this 45 into the back side of them, just so that it flares off a little nicer. Aside from that, we made this front piece here. This is another 1/2" front piece, and what it is designed to do is sit over the front of the speaker like this. The reason for it is this is gonna sit in here like this, and then we have to put some foam on here. Now the foam is going to either have to sit on this, because if we put it all the way out here, as we saw earlier when we put the grill over it, it would totally miss it and defeat the point. Whereas if we use this style installation, now we can put the foam up here on top of it next to this. That's gonna get us a much nicer into the car sound. Now to do this, we made this out of a piece of of 1/2" expanded PVC, Centra or Paleolite, you can call it whatever you like. And there's a couple different things going on here. So the first step was to laser out this piece here, which allows us to mimic where these holes are located on this bracket. That way we can still put normal size screws in here instead of having to use some really long janky ones. Then we transferred that shape to a piece of 1/2". The next step was to countersink in for the thickness of the basket. To do that, we used a set of calipers to measure this, twisted to lock in place, and then you use this dip here to set the height of our router. Once we knew that, we took this over and we routed this out. We then rounded over the outside as well as the inside. Now the inside we had to do by hand because this is too thin to put up to a router bit. We also put a 45 on the inside here, and how we did that is we actually stuck these two together like this, and then that gave us the height we needed. Took the same 45 that we put on this and put that on the inside to take in consideration any roll from the speaker getting in the way. The rounding on here was just put on because it just looks aesthetically pleasing. We sprayed it with some 7 color dye to make them black, so that they matched up to this black here. And now we're going to do a final assembly. The first step is to put some foam here on the back side of the speaker. The next step was to drill the holes. For that, we just lined it up and flipped it over like this. Drilled our 4 holes using a 1/16" bit. We added in a countersink as well. I want to keep this as flat as possible. For that, we will be using a drywall style screw because it will pull totally flat on here and give me a really good surface for the foam ring to attach to. Setting it up on here, getting everything lined up is the next most important thing. To do that, I will just line it up like this so that those holes are where they need to be. Keep moving the adapter until they're centered up. Once I have it centered up the way I want it, I will drill my 1/16" holes all the way through. The last step is to put some 1/2", 1/16" thick foam around the back side of it here. And there we have it. This speaker is all set and ready to get into the car. This is nice and flush. As you can see, there's no screw head sticking up. So that'll give us a really nice thick area to put that foam on. And if we need to, we can pull these 4 screws, remove it, and it's not stuck or getting anywhere near the cone itself. We still have our 3 factory screw points. We can add some factory plugs onto the back of this, get it all in shape into the car. I'll get these over to Fernando. Well, I'm gonna make this other one up, but I'm gonna get this one over to Fernando so he can get it into the car. All of the hard work that Fernando over there has put into these kick panels, the speakers are in. Let's check them out. The covers aren't in yet because we wanna wait until the very end. Like, we still have some wires and stuff we have to run. But let's take a look at what the speaker looks like mounted into place now that all the pieces are there. So we'll start here on the side, and you can see where we have the foam and the bracket into place. And this is why we wanted to add that top layer to it, so that we could put that foam right on top of that speaker without doing any damage to it, without getting it anywhere near the surround and screwing that up. Panel goes right in and sits on top of this. He did cut the sound shield gaskets in half because we didn't need a full inch, we just needed a 1/2". It's like a 1/2", 3/8 of an inch. But that allows that bracket to go in there and sits right on there, which is fantastic. Actually, this fits the best on anything we've done so far. I'm really happy with the way these turned out. Can't wait to hear them, but we're a long way from that. We got a long way to go. Oh, also, we have the Sound Shield little foamy panels here, the little egg crate, little contour stuff. So we put that behind there as well. The other thing that he did is he did the tap test where he sat here and he did this. And what he found out is that this plastic piece rattles a lot. And so as you can see now, there's a bunch of foam all over it. There's foam on the back side here. He spent a lot of time on this. But the nice thing is now with that done, we won't have to do any tap testing next time. We can immediately just jump in and we know what we have to do in order to get this to the way we want it. But if you're doing one of these, lots of foam, lots of sound treatment. The one thing we didn't talk about was the speaker plugs that we used. These we just plug into the factory. We used the Metra 725602 Bronco harness. We still got a long way to go and a short time to get there. The plan for the back of the car, aside from the sub going here and having the wire run through this, is to remove this whole side panel here. To do that, we have to remove the floor, this trim panel here, and then this will come out. This is a hard top, which is a little bit different than the soft top. The soft top will have latches right here, depending on whether you have the factory sub or not. But these will come up the same. So how these come up is they pinch here at the front, and there's these two little clips in the back that need to slide forward. So when you lift it off, do that, and then just kind of push it forward, and the whole thing will come off. It's really easy to break these, so be careful. And in the rears it works the same, just pull it forward. There you go. Underneath them is two 10mm bolts. For that we'll be using an impact. Once those pull out, just lift the whole things up, set them inside your parts bin. Flip this door up here, and you can get your hands on there, and you can slide this whole piece out. Reach up underneath this guy, it'll come right up. There's a bunch of metal clips on here, but it comes up easy enough. Things to know about this side panel when you go to remove. There's a big metal clip right here that faces down. There's a little tiny piece right here. It's a little tiny piece. There's a small clip in the front and one in the back. This guy right here. Don't forget this, because this is easy to forget because it just looks very nondescript and goes over in the corner. There's going to be two plugs behind here and possibly a third plug behind here that goes to the key sense. The other thing we have to do is go over and remove the running board on the passenger rear, because this is all one piece and it goes down to there. So this is just like the front. Get your fingers inside of it here and gently pull it up. Put your hand into the side like this and just work your way down, gently pulling up. Two clips here at the front, two clips in the middle, and two clips in the back. Grab it from the corner, just pull up. All that out of the way, start at your top and work your way down. Don't forget this clip right here. The other thing you want to do is just go ahead and pull all the clips off of the panel, because you're going to be test fitting and it's just, they get in the way. Now, something to note, that the factory sub panel and the non-factory panel are two totally different panels. So you're seeing this one that has the sub. Clips in this are different. On this panel they use these big blue clips, whereas on the non they have a two-piece clip that looks like a button. These, obviously because of the subwoofer, stick a lot harder. Unplug your three clips that are on this side. The first one to unplug is your key sense, then your light, which I remove the light, and then your power port. And when you do that, you don't even have to worry about this clip because you've taken it from the top first and the whole thing will lift out of place. I also tuck my three wires on the other side of the roll bar where that little beauty piece we took out of, they just seem to get in the way all the time. And that exposes this monster right here, which is the factory subwoofer amplifier. This is the BO amplifier. What makes this the BO amplifier is this blue cable right here. If you've ever seen one of our F-150 videos, this should look very familiar to you. It's this USB looking connector, and this is where all the data comes through. There is two other data wires that are built into the harness itself. This is where all of the music happens. So most of these other wires on these harnesses are just speaker wires. To get this whole piece out, there's a bunch of 10mm all along. Of course, there's always one that's going to be hard to get to, which is this guy here. You're going to need some kind of a ratchet and or a mechanical right angle to get that out. Make sure to unplug all the wires from the amplifier. There is one clip up here that goes to the subwoofer, and lift the whole thing out of place. This is what we have to work with. This is our template that we made in the last Bronco we did that had the factory subwoofer in the back, and we'll be reusing this to mount our amplifiers. For this, we make a bracket that goes to this screw down here, which was for the factory sub, as well as this bracket here. There is a screw point here for the factory sub. This is designed to sit off of the back about 1.5 inches. There's space here, so we make a rod that goes between here to float this out. And it just so happens to be the right size where both of the amplifiers will fit on it. And just so you know, if you have a Bronco that has the pocket, it is very similar in shape and size to this one. However, some of those screw down points aren't there. And this is what we've come up with. This cardboard here is for the non-subwoofer Bronco, and they're very similar in size. Let me show you what I mean. So this guy here would fit in this vehicle. It has this contour right here, and this actually tucks up in there really tight into the recess. So if you need space to come out, this amp rack here is a better idea because it tucks in very far. The problem with doing that is you can see it gets very narrow here, and there is a lot of room this way because they fit a sub in there. For that, we use this one. As you'll notice, it adds this here, which there is a factory screw down point. For this one here, it doesn't have that, and we put 2 nutserts in at this location. It is got a little bit of different shape. It does sit down a little further. This one is designed to come off, and there's space behind here. There's a lot of space behind here. So if you wanted to put another skinny amplifier behind it, you could. For this though, 2 amplifiers will sit just like this. So for this one, the highs amp will be here, where we have plenty of room for all that wiring to come out. The sub amp will be here. There is a decent amount of room that is located here because this actually has 2 things that hold it up, and then there's a curve. So we have plenty of room for the wiring to come out of the bottom of the amplifier, the RCAs to plug in. This makes it a simple enough install. And like I said, there is room on the back side of it, and that is where we will tuck away our Amp Pro. Now, if we were to tuck them in like this, using this amp rack, what would happen is this one actually sits really close to here because it's pushed back, so this amp rack wouldn't work for that. This needs to turn into some ABS, so join me over at the router station. This is the bracket. I've also cut off some of the scrap and rounded over both sides. This is what I'll use to make my mounts for it that are going to go into the factory screw points. Heat gun, ABS plastic, some time, make an L bracket here. This tape is our JK tape, super red, that is applied to this. This is not for permanent mount. This is just so we can stick it together and we can drill some holes and put some screws in there. This bottom here though, we're gonna apply some foam to so that it doesn't rattle. Make sure to cut off the foam around the screw hole. There is a little ledge there that this sits on. I want this to sit on there nice and flat. Let's head over and get these things into place. The factory screws are an M6. That means I'm gonna hand tighten 2 M6 nuts into place. And with the bolt in place and the foam on the bottom, looking at the side profile of this one, it's kind of towing in. So I'm gonna heat it back up and bend it out some. I have to line it up with the hole for the top here. Gonna stick these 2 in place like so. For the top screw, I have some aluminum rod that is cut the length and a big long M6 screw. And that's what it's gonna look like. What I need to do is flare the end of this so this screw will fit flat, and then put 2, probably some M4s into this so that it all is bolted together, and then this will be my amp rack. I'll get my amplifiers mounted onto this. We'll put the side panel in to test fit it to make sure that it'll do what we need it to do. Another thing too is these wires here, as we learned earlier, were for the A to B. I'm gonna mount the A to B module here behind it on the back side because I have all kinds of room back here to do stuff like that. I'm also gonna mount the power distribution behind the amp rack, and I will router in some holes here in the front so that my power wire will go off to the back. My signal wire will stay here. I'm going to router some holes into this next, but we do have to get it screwed together first. Do our test fitting, we need to tighten this thing down into place because we need to make sure that this is the final resting point for this. This is why I told you to remove all those clips in the beginning. So the only thing I had to do was shorten this top. It was a little too tall. I needed to taper it in some more. But after checking everything, there is nothing touching nothing. What I mean by that is the amplifiers are nowhere near any of the areas on this to get in the way of anything. So that's actually really nice. The amplifiers have plenty of room here on the bottom. I can still get my hand in here so I can pull out the USB that's gonna get mounted into it. I'm pretty happy. They're tucked up nice inside there, up out of the way, and none of the stuff across the top here is hitting it. That means I'm gonna take this all out, put it aside, head over to the bench, and start on the wiring. A couple things that we have to talk about as far as what the wiring is gonna consist of. The power wire is gonna come down and run along this area here where the factory harness is, and then attached to the distribution block for power. I'm only gonna need a power distribution block because there's a factory ground point right here, and we're gonna be utilizing that. The only wires I have to run for signal are the 2 tweeter wires up to the front. Everything else is gonna be at the factory harness. We're gonna be running RCA and Toslink, but we'll discuss that more once we get to the actual tuning side of things. Let's talk about how we're gonna be wiring up these dash speakers. The factory has 2 wires that go back to the factory amplifier, and those are gonna power up either the mid-range or the tweeter. My guess is they're gonna do the mid-range, right?
Correct.
All right, so we'll use those 2 wires to wire up the mid-range. The next task is, since we're going full active, we need 2 wires for the tweeters, meaning a left and a right, or a driver and a passenger, depending on how you want to think about it. The process for doing that for us is as followed. One of us comes over here to our wire rack that is conveniently hidden out of ways because it's ugly and we don't want to look at it, and we grab the corresponding colors. These 4 here are our most popular. We're almost out of green. Have you ordered green?
Yes, sir.
Passenger rear, driver's rear, passenger front, driver's front. There's a big roll of black because they're, again, definitely the most popular. However, outside of black, we also use yellow and orange for tweeter. We'll use blue or brown for mid-range. And then these 3 wires will always get wrapped in with them. So for example, what we have here right now is a white and yellow. He's using his drill to spin it up. Now these wires will either be covered in tape or tech flex depending on where they're going and what we're doing. For us in this case, what we'll be doing is snaking a wire across the dash from here over there and down to the kick panel, that dark area right there where you can't see. Once the wires are in the kick, both drivers and passengers, we'll put connectors there, and then we'll run new wires from back at the amplifier up to those points, and we'll make a connection point in the kick panel, similar to what the factory would do. We found this much easier to service, as well as it makes more sense because he can go ahead and get that part of the installation done, whereas I'm not ready yet to run wires forward. It allows us to finish things much faster. It also gives us that service point, so if for some reason, if we get the polarity wrong and we need to switch it, we can easily go to that access point and flip it around, because somehow it never fails. There's always a speaker that's backwards. Even though you can route and look, no, those are the right colors. I think it's like, anyways, we won't get into my thoughts on that.
Now it's time to remove the speaker pods on the rear. There are 3 screws, 1 located in the bottom. It's a T30, and 2 more on the top of the pod. Don't remove the ones on the bracket. Remove the ones that are a little bit down. You feel it, you put your hand and you feel the 2 T30s. But first, you gotta remove the grill because you have to disconnect it. So the clips on the grill are 1 in the top, 1 in the bottom, in the 4 corners. So just slowly, and comes out. You don't have to remove the speaker. Remove the speaker wire connector. If you only replacing the speaker, you don't have to remove the pod. You just take the 2 screws and you put your new speaker in. Now, don't take it out, just lose it. Then we're gonna loosen the top screws. Don't go crazy. Now we're gonna use our wrench. If you remove this one, of course, the whole pod will come down. Now,
let's go take a look at the factory pod and compare it to the pod that we're going to be putting in. For the rear speakers, we will be doing these guys right here. These are the Focal Flax Evo PC165FE 6.5-inch flax coaxials. And this is a beautiful speaker built off of that mid-bass tweeter combination. Flax seat here, butyl rubber surround, aluminum basket, nice size magnet. You can buy amp this speaker if you want to. The tweeter wire does come out of the pole and attach here to our speaker terminals, which are, they're again screwed into place. This is not some weak, flimsy little piece of cardboard holding that in. In the box, we have some screws. There are grills if you need them, which we will for this installation. So let's pull those guys out here. Standard grill, nice Focal mesh steel. It does have a little invert to it here in the center that kind of matches up with the inverted dome look that a lot of the Focal tweeters have. Has a piece of foam in the grill so you don't get any rattles. Drops into place like such. Grill goes on over the top. And then to get this to stick on, little pieces of butyl in for the corners, and this will just stick right into place. Now the factory, as we said, comes with a 4-inch. So let's take a look at the pods we're going to be using to make these go in. These are the MTI rear speaker pods. They are covered in a rhino liner, so they have a very rugged look to them. They mimic the factory holes as far as how to get them in and out. They do come with a bag of screws with washers. There are 2 of them in there. The speaker drops into place, has a very tight fit to it, almost like they were meant to go in there. A couple things when putting these in, which I'm sure Fernando will highlight, is do not over tighten them, and also make sure to pre-drill your holes once you get this in before you put the speaker in. Don't just run a screw through this so you don't crack the material at all. This is the factory 4-inch pod that goes back there. I'm a big advocate of just pulling this out, putting a nice 4-inch in here, calling it a day. I know a lot of you guys out there want to upgrade to the bigger 6.5. The thing you got to keep in mind is that there's not a lot of airspace in here. As you can see, it is substantially bigger. It is going to block some of your view. Although I know you have those giant headrests back there, just keep those things in mind. Fernando said you don't have to pull out the 4 while it's in the car, and he was right. Now that we have it over here on the bench, we do need to remove it because we need this speaker plug relocate into our new mount. This is the new mount that we're going to be using. He has already added some sound shield into the back side of it here, just to kind of smooth out this inside a little bit. The wiring is going to pull through, and there's a hole here on the side. Gotta work it back in. There we go. The speaker is gonna drop into place. He's already added some foam into this. That's why this grill is already stuck into place. This speaker will drop in just like this. But before all of that happens, it is easier to get it mounted into the car first. So let's get this over to him and he can screw in the new pod.
One more thing I want to point out before we install the pod is we put our speaker clip. We use the JK tape, fuzzy one, and we don't want that to make any noise. We put the sound shield strip on the clip because it's plastic, gonna minimize the rattles inside the pod. Normally it comes like this. We also remove the clip that goes into the factory pod. This one is like 2 pins. We're going to install little strips of the sound shield so it doesn't bounce around in this part right here. So now let's put it on. You gotta take your time. We pre-drill our holes right there, so it's easy installing the speaker after the pod is installed right there with the speaker on.
For this install, we'll be doing some blue acrylic accents to match the inside blue in the car. When you saw these grills originally, they just had this open area here. So we've made 2 blue Focal logos to go into those holes. Get these to stick in place, we'll be using some of our super sticky acrylic tape. They're already nice and tight to begin with. I just don't want them bouncing out. And there we have it. 2 little blue Focal logos mounted in the corner to match the rest of the blue in the car. The pod is secured into place finally. Screws, very short, #1 screws to hold this guy down. The grill on the tweeter is just sitting there for right now until we're ready, because it needs to come off. Go just magnetically drop it in there. There we go. You got the cool little Focal logo right there to match all the other blue accents. So you have this accent here, there's blue, there's blue. This guy really likes blue, so he wanted those to be blue. So as you can see, it kind of matches. We found an acrylic that is, oddly enough, pretty close. Now that we have that on, we can remove our safety film. Make sure if you're gonna put this on a windshield like that there is no tint on it, because you will have a bad day otherwise. Ooh, all right, so let's take a nice slow look at that. Looks good, we got both of them done. Ran the wires over for the tweeters as we've talked about, and they're located right here on the bottom. When we get to the speed wire that is going to connect to those, we'll remove the sheathing, because where we need to go with the 2 rears is up under here where the factory radio is. But don't worry, we'll show you how to get this out so you can add that factory T-harness in there. With the back of the car apart, let's take a look at the amplifiers we're going to be using. To power all of the mids and highs, do the DSP work, basically all the heavy lifting, we have the Arc Audio Blackbird. This is an 8-channel amplifier with 12 channels of DSP. This is one of those, what I like to call trifecta of doom. And what I mean by that is it'll do high level in, it'll do RCA in, as well as it'll do iData in. So if you wanted to do something where you just plug it in, you can. At the time of filming, they have just come out with the new iData AR module that does B&O. However, he had already purchased the pack piece, so we'll be using that for this installation. This also has a Toshlink input. That is nice because we'll be utilizing that as well. USB connector, input and output harnesses, the main amplifier. Ooh, look at how tiny it is. That is one of the reasons why I picked this amplifier for this job, because it's small, compact, and we don't have a ton of room where that factory subwoofer went. The other nice thing about this particular amplifier is that all of the connections are on one side. For now, I'm putting the bag and the USB back into the box, but before we are done, we will be plugging the USB back in because that's gonna live in that amplifier forever. Let's talk about the end plate and some of the cool things that this guy has. Starting on the left-hand side, clip protect lights are built into the amplifier as well as the software. Our line level inputs / high level inputs are all located right here. The only RCAs located on the amplifier are the output RCAs. It has a bunch of options for different types of devices that ARC makes: the BTM, the RXP, the PSC, and the LR1 remote. Optical input is located here. It has 3 choices. DC is on the left, signal is on the right, and in the middle, auto sense is off. Since we are going to be using a device that has remote turn on, we'll leave it in the middle. Our outputs are located here in another harness. They do give you the bridge configuration located here. One of the things you have to know is 1 for output is on right, 1 for input is on left. Pay attention to that. That's important. I've made that mistake myself. Our USB input is located underneath the harness here for remote in, remote out. And then this has the option to add in a toggle switch to change between profile 1 and profile 2, which are EQ settings. 11 and 12 out, 9 and 10 out. Our 4-gauge power inputs are located over here. And then this little white connector here on the bottom is for the AR connection. As far as look for the rest of the amplifier, you have a heat sink located here on the back side. So if you are going to be mounting it, you're going to want to mount it with this facing up or like this. Do not mount it like this because heat is going to rise and you're not going to be utilizing your heatsink. Just has a silkscreen name and wattage, very minimalist. I think that would look better. However, the reason for that is because this is a purpose-built amplifier to work with AR. More than likely you're going to be putting this somewhere where you're not going to see all those things. However, it is a nice channel, so if you wanted to make your own, it'd be easy enough to do it. To power the sub, we're going to be using a different amplifier, which is this guy here, the companion amp for it, which is the Nighthawk. Now if you're going, wait a minute, Blackbird, Nighthawk, yeah, there's an SR71 located here, and then the Stealth Fighter is located right here. Let's take a look at this guy. Now this is a 2-channel 800-watt amplifier, and as you can see, it almost looks identical in size to the DSP version of it. In the box for this one, there are no plugs or anything like that. This is it here, and if we did put it right next to, yes, they are identical in size. But let's take a look at the end of this guy. First thing up, we have the power and protect light, our clip channel 1, clip channel 2, stereo or mono switch, channel 1 output, channel 2 output, as well as bridged are labeled here. This is a plug. It does come out to make installation a little bit easier. The most important thing on this amplifier is this guy right here, which is the stereo load switch. If you're going to be running it 1 ohm, left side. If you're going to be running it 2 ohm, click it to the right side. Bridged, it's telling you down here, 4 ohm is going to be to the right, 2 ohm is going to be to the left. It's a simple variable crossover that is 50 to 500 hertz. 3-way switch left is low, right is high, and the middle is full range, which is where we're gonna leave it because we'll have the DSP to take care of our crossover for this. Gain control, input RCA, DC sense on and off, remote turn on in and out harness, similar to what was on its DSP brethren. It allows you to come in and out, so you can daisy chain as many of these as you like. And then that same power input, ground, power. These two amplifiers are what we've chosen to power up this system. And now the trick is to figure out how to get these to fit in the back where that subwoofer was removed from. I have the amplifier rack all back apart. These are actually just sitting on here. And what I want to do is create these areas here. This is for my power wire to go through. I've created this little template here on the laser a while back, and I just keep it in a drawer to reuse. I'm just going to remove this little section right here so that it matches this one. And I really don't need a lot because there is a gap here. I just think it'll look silly if I don't. I've used some of the red tape that we used earlier. This will stick down to here, just like this. Remove the amplifiers. Let's take it over to the router. So after kind of looking at everything and routering these holes out here, I kind of thought that since the Amp Pro is going to be mounted behind it, it only makes sense to just route all the wires through the front here around to the back. And so I headed over to the laser and I made a bracket to emulate all the openings that I'm gonna need. I've added some red tape to it. Line it up. I just need to drill these holes out and then we'll take it over to the router. And with those holes drilled out, 1, 2, 3. Nice, right? I am gonna have to cut this bracket to shorten it up a little bit so it doesn't get in the way of these holes. That'll give us that on this side. There's really not much to do for this one here because other than the power wire, everything else is short. The RCA will just loop around to this. The plan now is to get this thing back together and start doing some of the wiring. Let's take a look at how we are going to integrate into this vehicle with the AP4 FD31. For those of you that aren't familiar with this, a lot of you guys will be like, I just need a high level or some strange thing like that. This is not one of those. What this is designed to do is talk specifically with the factory electronic and give us a preamp section. This does look a lot like a high level to low level adapter brought to you by PAC. They make one that looks just like this. However, not the same thing. If you were to take the top off, you'll see there's a lot going on inside of this thing. And that is the electronics that are talking A to B, which is the data bus system that this car uses. That's that little USB we were looking at earlier. Inside of this box we have a bunch of parts and an instruction manual. We'll give you a fair warning. If you just bought one of these and you open it up and you get ready to put it in your car, stop what you're doing. Download the updater to your laptop and download the most latest firmware on this. It is not shipping with an updated firmware. Very few things like this do because they will tend to sit on the shelf for a while and they're constantly evolving them to fix any glitches that should occur when new models come out. Right now the software on this is 19 and this was an 18, so we updated it right when we got it here. They do come with a subwoofer level control, which is really nice, and this subwoofer level control is tied into the sub output, which is located right here. However, there's no crossover in this, anything like that. The only thing that these channels do that are unique to their position is front. When faded to the front, will play front. If there's any chimes or beeps or anything like that, will come out the front. The rear here is for the rear channels, and any beeps, bobs, or anything like that that need to come out of those will come out of the rear channels. And then sub is non-fading, so if you go to the front or you go to the rear, this will always have a solid volume output that is linear with the volume knob but can be circumvented by this knob right here. The knob itself is fantastic. It has a nice long length to it that makes it real easy to mount in a dash. The Fords have a perfect place for it. Inside the box there are some harnesses that you will need. The first one is the bigger of the two, which is this guy right here. To differentiate them is it's the one with the gray plugs. This is the master plug. This is going to have, for this case, our speaker wire outputs here, the USB input for the A to B, as well as the power input on this little black plug. On the other end, it has this white plug that plugs directly into our unit like this. This will plug into the car, and these will go off to our amplifier. Now, depending on the Ford that you're interacting with, not not all of them have all of their wiring back at the amplifier. Depending on what year, make, and model you have the one with the longer plug like this, which is for an older Ford, and you have this one here that has a square plug, which is for a newer Ford. If you'd like to know which one of these you might need for your vehicle, that's where the installation manual comes into play. The thing you have to know is that these wire colors, they don't mean anything, because Ford doesn't have a unified pin configuration for them. So pay no attention to those. What you want to do is open up this owner's manual and look for your make and model. In this case, this is a Ford Bronco 10 speaker 2021. Amplifier location, right hand cargo area behind trim panel. You also have Bronco Sport 10 speaker 2021 amplifier located trim panel, F150, F150, F150. You get the idea. And what these will do is these will break down what all of these colors mean. For example, white black is left front kick, gray is right front kick, green is left front dash. As you can see, that would normally be a rear speaker wire, but in this application it's a front speaker wire. Once you've figured out what speaker configuration you have as far as the wire colors, over here you'll see where it says 32 pin plug at radio, 32 pin plug at radio, and so on and so forth. And they have part numbers. This is an FD03. FD03 is corresponding to this harness, and in cases like this they actually utilize the amplifier that was in the factory radio that would typically be for the base model. They repurpose it. And according to what this is telling me is that my rear speaker wires are located at the radio, in which case I'd have to pull the radio apart, plug this in, and I could grab my two factory wires here and here. And those are going to be, the left rear is white and the right rear is purple. The center channel, if you were going to retain it, is gray. And there's also some other speaker wires here that aren't being used, such as the orange and the green. The other thing that you need to pay attention to is whether you're going to be doing Toslink or RCA. For most installations, we actually run both RCA and Toslink. There's advantages and disadvantages of both. And those are, if you run the RCA and you have no noise and everything is great, meaning no engine noise or anything like that, just leave it on RCA. Everything will be fantastic. If you run it and there is engine noise, which, believe it or not, happens quite frequently with this unit and the vehicle, at that point it makes more sense to switch over to the Toslink. You won't get any of that noise. If you decide to do that, you have to switch it to 2-channel mode. 2-channel mode will then turn off fader from front to rear and force all of the sound just through the front channels. What that entails is that if you have backup sensors and front sensors, they're just going to come out of their corresponding sides. So instead of coming out of the left rear speaker, it's just going to come out of the left speakers. The nice thing is that the outputs on these actually still work. So for example, the subwoofer RC output, you're not going to get any engine noise in that because it doesn't play those frequencies. That allows you to still utilize that input so that you can adjust the subwoofer level control using that RC output. You can also just use the Toslink on the front inputs if you want to. It all just is how you set up the amplifier and the input output settings. And that would be dip switch number 1. Dip switch number 2 is a 5 volt versus 4 volt. So if you have a DSP or an amplifier that can't handle a 5 volt input, we have our action plan as far as this guy is concerned. Now, along with the 2 tweeter wires we have to run to the front, we also have to run a left and right rear channel. Okay, I'm more of a trust but validate kind of guy. I have 2 PT98 pluses from Mobile Solutions. I have my harness plugged in. I have what they're telling me is supposed to be correct, and now we're gonna test. First up is my white. This should be the driver's front mid bass. It's making a popping noise. Let's head over and find out. This should light up green, just greens. The audio track that we play will light up green, red. Let's see what this one is doing. Well, that's good news. That's exactly what we wanted to see. I just have to do it to the rest of the speakers. Next up is gray black. Gray black works, and this is where it jumps the track because now we're going to go to the greens. This is our driver's dash speaker. Good news. Now we have purple. That one does what we want it to do. There's a red set and a blue set. These are going to be subwoofer, which we are not retaining those wires. There's a brown set on here, but there's no wires on the other side of it. There's a funky green set that has a light green and a dark green. There's no wires on the other side of that. And then there's a white with blue, white, red, and there's no wires on the other side of that. So outside of the wires that we just tested, That's it. I'm gonna tie these in a knot because I'm gonna remove those. On the power harness over here, there's an orange set that isn't connected to anything either, and there's no wiring on the other side of it in the harness. So I've just tied all those together, which I can now strip the harness of all of these nightmarish wires. This also validates that unfortunately the rears, as this says, are behind the radio. I've looked around to try to find a place to tap into them a little bit more convenient. There isn't one. The wires run across the top here and come down what looks like the A-pillars more than likely. It's not worth it, and it's really not that hard to get behind the radio. The plan will be we'll just run speed wire now, because that's an 8 conductor wire. We need 2 sets of wires for the tweeters. We need 2 sets of wires for the rear. We'll just run that wire up, make it long enough to where it will reach behind the radio. We'll strip it. We'll get our wiring for the kicks in the kicks, and then we'll continue the wire up into the dash. We have a plan. That's good. Let's remove these wires. One of the other things I did this harness before I went over and just did that test was I removed all the tape off of the harness. I'm gonna retape it anyways. To remove the wires, use this, which is a pin extraction tool. This was a Delphi pin extraction tool that we have over on DNF Tool Drawer, which is a place you can go to find most of the tools that we use. It's a simple enough task to do on this, and that is just push it into the release hole, pull the wire out, and then repeat the process on all the other ones. There's 2 T30 screws that hold this handle in. Back those out and remove the handle. There is a piece of the dash that goes all the way across here that needs to be removed. There's 2 clips located here at the back side of it, and there's just snaps here across the front. It's easy just to bring the front piece down like we did there, and then you just kind of pull forward on it to get the plastic clips out. Don't get me wrong, these things are in there. They're not just gonna give up, you know, without a fight, that is for sure. As you can see though, they will come out, and there is that little green clip right here, and there's one on the other side. And as expected, this one flew off and went into the dash and disappeared. However, we keep a whole stock of them because that's what these cars are made out of now, and they don't hang out. They like to just go pew. Up underneath this area right here are 2 big plugs. One of them is the plug that is going to be this. This is where the radio, it actually hangs out the dash and hangs down. Looking from the bottom up, you can see there's a gray plug and a black plug. The black plug is the one you want. Right here at the front is a clip. Push that in, and you kind of have to do this contortionist thing when you push this in and pull it at the same time, and it will pop out. When doing it the first time, it's kind of a struggle. Just take your time, go slow, and you'll eventually become better at it. There we have it. Move it out of the way so that you can plug in your new one. Kind of put it at an angle. Make sure you hear the clip when you put it in. Now pull the other side back down. This is very similar to what you'd have to do if you have the non-BO system. It's the same plug. And there's plenty of room up in here to tuck it back in the dash. We do have to bring these 2 speaker wires over and attach them to this. We have quick disconnects that are already put on our harness. All I have to do is add on the opposite ends of these into here, plug it back in, and put it back together in the reverse order, and then we can get the glove box put in, and I can get the running board on this side put in, because I'm officially done with the front work here. We're really close now. We're getting ready to put the subwoofer on the back door, but we have to run the wire through the factory sleeving. There's a clip right here that is removed, and a second one here. This one gets entirely removed. Save it, it will get taped back on. That's all that's holding it from the factory is tape. When you go to pull off, this is interior style Tessa tape, the fuzzy stuff, but then it also has some regular style, like really super sticky 3M tape on here. The problem is that this is going to want to slide around. When you take the tape off of this end, the whole thing is just going to move freely. You need to know where it goes back into place. The trick we do, I just take my electrical tape, just wrap it around twice like this, and what that'll do is that'll mark where this needs to be put back together. So you can move on and take the tape off of this end. Now most of this tape you can just peel off, however the sticky black 3M style tape, that needs to be cut off. The fuzzy stuff should just peel right off. With that, you can see how this is gonna slide around. It does make getting the wire through super easy. If you look at these wires, there is no tape on any of these. These are all free roaming wires through here. That means don't tape up the wire you're gonna run through it. Leave it free roaming. That way it'll move through the sleeve and won't get bunched up. Pull it through. And then on this end, leave enough hanging out to where you can attach it to your subwoofer enclosure. Make sure that they're equal. And now that we know where this mark is, we can add in our 3M style tape, and we'll just rebuild this harness the same way it was from the factory. That'll leave those technicians that work at the dealership just going, how did they do this? When doing the fuzzy tape, start from this clip here and move your way towards the braiding. That way, if you do need to pull it all back apart, you know right where your ends are at to get to it. And do the same on this end. Put the one clip in that you didn't detach and line the other clip up, and it was being held on with the same tape. Line it up with where it's going to go. Tape the clip back on. That's back to factory. Now on this side over here, this zip tie, we just trimmed the zip tie off and we left the mount in place. And the reason we did that is we're going to add our zip tie to it. Make sure the door is open all the way so that you don't have to worry about this overstretching or anything. Cut the zip tie off. And now you've remade this. This leftover wiring right here, we are going to pull our little tape piece off that we put on it. And this is gonna get zip tied and taped down to here. And then on this end, we're gonna put in a connector so that if this door ever needs to come off or be serviced, it has this connector here from the factory that just unclips. We'll have our connector right next to it so they can easily remove the whole door if they need to. To install this box on the back, there's these little clips right here that go into their holes here on the door. They're not really long. Getting this whole thing to attach the way it's supposed to is not too fun. Plus these are screw down style speaker clips on here instead of push down, which kind of sucks. You gotta sit here and twist them and hope that they're tight. I feel a push style would be way better. Or just a plug. Plug would be cool. The customer has already put in, there's 4 nutserts that need to go in this that he's already installed. All we have to do is add the screws back in now that we've added in our wiring. Alright, fantastic. This guy is screwed into place. Our wiring is in. Next step is obviously getting our woofer installed. When screwing into something that has rhino liner, make sure to pre-drill the holes before you put them in. Don't just like, yeah! I mean, if you're using drywall screws, I'm pretty sure, yeah, but we don't use drywall screws. The last step for that is this grill here. JL makes it pretty simple. It just snug fits in. You just kind of work your way around it until it snaps into place. And there we have it. Fernando's over here finishing up the wiring for this. You already added in the connector coming out of the amplifier. And even though it just simply unplugs from the amplifier, we don't want a technician that has never seen something like this before to have to go through the heartache of trying to figure it out. So it'll just sit here like this and be super simple. Just taking a look at the back of the amp rack, this is where I want to mount the Amp Pro. That means all my wiring is going to come around this side. My plan is to take this piece right here and attach everything to it so they can easily just run through these holes, and in the end I can attach this to here and everything will look pretty nice, neat, and be serviceable. Right now I have it just double-sided taped onto here because I needed to test fit it to make sure that there is plenty of clearance for it. Luckily there is, which means we can get started. The one thing I'm going to do differently is the Arc Audio comes with 2 harnesses. It comes with an RCA harness with female ends here, and it comes with this guy right here, which is the high-level harness. I personally like to take the high-level harness and cut it to length and add in my own ends to it so that I have a perfectly sized harness. The other harness is this, which is the speaker wire harness. This will plug into here. This harness will be connected to these wires as well as the speed wire that is going to come up front. That means I can just get all of this attached and have it just loop through and then plug in and make it super fun. These 2 holes here are for my inputs and outputs. I have my Toslink, my USB, my RCA, and the remote turn on. So all of that can be brought up along in here, zip tied into place, and then affixed to this. Let's get started. So I spent a little bit of time working on the plan that I have for wiring up the amplifier, meaning this piece right here. And let me kind of go over it so you can get a feel for what has transpired. The first step was getting the output of the Amp Pro connected to the amplifier, which was this setup right here. I soldered my RCAs together, zip tied them all onto the amp rack. The next step was connecting my output of my amplifier up to my factory harness, as well as also adding in the speed wire that is going to run up front for the rears and tweeters. The Amp Pro generates the remote turn on, and that would be these two wires here, because the amplifier has an input, which is this blue-white wire coming from here, and an output, which is the blue wire that snakes back through and ends here in this connector. The goal is to get it so that all of these will come through these holes and plug into place. The RC output is also ran along here and will loop back around and plug into here. So for the most part, I have my input-output signal pretty much taken care of, with the exception of adding the Toslink cable and my USB. The USB is just gonna come out and hang out over in this area, down in the little cubby area in the car, so I don't need to worry about that quite yet. It's not gonna be part of this, but I do need to find some place to put my fuse holder for this installation, which is this guy right here. Ideally, it should probably go somewhere over on this end of the amp rack, maybe down here. That's a good question. I haven't quite figured out where I want to put this yet, so I'm still pondering that. However, the grounds are gonna come around and they're gonna exit up here where that factory bolt is. So those are probably going to be my next endeavor on this, is get those grounds up and around and over to here, because that seems pretty straightforward and easy. And while I'm doing that, I'll figure out the best place to put this fuse holder so that I can get my wire runs where they need to be. And then the last thing will be connecting up to this, which is the subwire output to go off to his JL woofer. This is what I've come up with for the power. I wanted to make sure that the power wire stayed away from here. I didn't want it to cross over our insert that we made with all our other pieces on it. So it started like this, where the power and ground come out of the bottom and then they're stacked on top of one another, and they come down and they go around this area here and come up the side. So as it turns out, I didn't need to make this notch here because that was my original plan. Didn't work out, but you can't see it, so life is good. These will still work. My power and ground come through this hole on this side. These will connect to the factory ground point. Power wire will come into the T-spec fuse holder here. Fuses are already in it. This is zip tied. They're again stacked on top of one another in the back because we have room. I've test fitted it just to make sure that nothing is going to be an issue. The only thing I got left to do is to add this guy onto here like this and plug in all my connectors along this side, and then this will be ready to get into the car. I'm super excited to get ready to do that. Fernando right now is running the bass knob and my power wire. Let's go meet him in the car and we'll connect the two remaining things to the car and start running our speed wire to the front.
My power wire is already to the firewall. It has a factory grommet that is very easy to get to, so you don't have to worry about that. My power wire goes here and goes under this factory fuse box. It's not that hard to get the wire through here. When we talk about mounting a fuse holder, we always mount our fuse holders out of the way, or we trying to make very serviceable fuse holder mounts. If somebody else is going to do a service on a car, we want to make sure that as soon as they take one bolt, everything comes out very easily. Like this one, for example, you see this is a mess. As installers, we hate when we have something like this to deal. I don't want somebody else to deal with my fuse holder, so what I do is, this is a factory bracket. It has a factory bolt. It's a 13 millimeter, is holding the battery. You remove the bolt, and I'm gonna make a bracket. You kind of figured it out where to mount it. Sometimes you can mount it out of the way here in this part right here. For me, I see some people that mount the fuse over here perfectly fine.
For this car, it would be a problem though.
I don't want to mount it over here.
Well, you have your guillotine right there.
Right. So, and even, so for example, if you mount it here, sometimes people cannot get to the factory fuse box or things like that.
Why not just drill it right to that?
Yeah, don't do that. Seriously, it's better if you just put a zip tie and leave it there. Don't drill holes in top of your fuse boxes. Please don't. Let's go to the bench and I'm gonna show you how I did. In my book, I have a drawing of what I was thinking of doing for the fuse mount. You grab a piece of ABS. Always use ABS 1/4 inch and up. Don't use Central PVC or things like that. This is my fuse. As you see, it's already there. Here, kind of show you, this is the cuts that you do. This is a bend up and then bend down. Now let's go to the car and see how it fits. We have the 13mm bolt in there. This is coming from the amplifiers. This one goes through the bus bar. This is the reason why we came over here. As you see, they actually hook up another thing in here. We talk about serviceability. This one is very serviceable. For example, as you see, everything goes back to normal. Is no cutting. If somebody's going to replace the battery, the only thing they have to do is remove the 10mm from the ground, the 10mm from the power, 13mm that we have our fuse mount, and the 13mm in the other side. This bar comes out, the whole mount should come out. This is why we have plenty wire, because this one will move this way. They replace the battery. They don't even have to remove our power wire. So we can close it and it looks like a factory.
One more thing off our list. Let's keep going. The amplifiers are in place. The wires are connected. Let's take a closer look here at our ground points. Using that factory ground point is fantastic. It makes things super convenient. Everything is bolted into place here. There again, we have that nice gap to give us plenty of room to fit behind here. Here are the Amp Pro plugs. They actually come right to this area here. So this can be mounted in and you can unplug and plug them in. Super convenient. Power wire tucks up the backside. So all these wires are nice and loose, easy to get to. You can still service all the factory stuff. And then our bolts are in place. The only wires are running forward. That blue wire is the speed wire that goes forward. I'll look at that in a second. And then we have this braided wire here following the factory, along with this little guy right here is our bass knob. Both of those come along into the factory trough, zip tied into place. Comes up here, goes in the firewall. Let's take a closer look at the bass knob. Goes right here. There's a perfect spot to mount these in this particular bracket. Bronco uses this, the F-Series trucks use it. I'm sure there's something else that's probably using it as well, but it makes it super convenient. You get a really nice bass knob location, easy to get at, and it's tucked out of the way. There's a closer look at those plugs coming down the side with the speed wire. Comes through here. Now when you guys are like talking about like factory wiring, this blue wire here that does like all this crazy pretzel stuff, this is the A to B wire. But this big blue wire here is our speed wire. When running it through this, you got to kind of start here with the tip and work your way through, because there's a ton of little things that you have to kind of sew it under. It won't just set on top, and this black tube just kind of weaves back and forth through here. It's really weird, but you have to keep making sure you go underneath it, and then this will just come up and it stops here, and this is where we're going to pick up our tweeter wires, start moving over here into the dash. There's those little pieces of tape. Snap it in. Like you saw earlier when we were fussing with the sub and it was making that clacky sound, it no longer makes the clacky. So much better. Actually, it's funny because the last Bronco we did, the customer pointed that out to us. He's like, all over the forums, they talk about how rattly this thing is. It's the only thing I hear when I'm driving down the road. And I was like, I'll have Fernando look at it. If anyone can fix it, it's this guy.
Fix it. We fix it, guys. Don't worry. Bring all the Broncos over here.
Totally. All right, it's time to do some PC work. First thing I like to do is disconnect my speaker wire output plug. That's one of the nice things about doing this style amplifier, is that you can just disconnect them all and you don't have to worry about anything happening. You can also just unplug the RCA or unplug the subwoofer here if you're worried about this doing anything strange. There's a process, a workflow as it were, that we're gonna kind of go through real quick that I like to do when setting up for something like this. The first step is assigning all my inputs and outputs with their corresponding names. Drivers front, drivers and passenger front, drivers and passenger rear, subwoofer. These are what are coming from the Amp Pro. These are the channels on the amplifier they're going to. Tweeters, mid bass, rear, subwoofer. You can see them correspond over here. You can change the colors if you want to. The next step is going into tools and hitting up mixer assist. This is going to allow me to set up where I want everything to go through. Front, left and right, obviously those two need to be clicked, and then my rears, this is my up mixer here. I'm gonna run my rears through my up mixer so I can get that rear effect. So that means I need to turn on rears over here to connect to these lines. The next step is turning on these two here. These are gonna be for my mid bass. It's gonna run through the feature called Super Bass, which is a mid-range extra magical EQ that sometimes you need in order to make your mid bass have a little bit more impact, but not as much rattle and stuff like that. We just like to run it through there in case we need it. These two dots here are for my subwoofer because I'm only running channel 5 in, but I have a dual RCA going out to the subwoofer amp. These 4 dots here are for my tweeter and mid-range coming off of inputs 1. These 2 dots here are for my mid-bass. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and my 2 subwoofers are coming off over here to my subwoofer outputs. Channels 11 and 12 are not used. This is a really important feature. We've talked about it in other videos too. You have to get this one set up right in order to make sure all your sound is going where you need it to go. The next step is coming into crossovers. This is where labeling your channels becomes very helpful. You see the colors here. So I have my tweeter, my mid-range, my mid-bass, rears, subwoofer. If you click these green icons when you're switching through, it'll just mirror this crossover point for, let's say, the left down to the right, so you don't have to do everything twice. The next step is going to be going back into tools, going to the plot. Plot is going to allow me to take a look at those crossover points that I set up to make sure that I got them right. If I click the top G here and I have crossover highlighted, it'll show me those. If I unclick them, I can do one at a time, so I can check my tweeters, make sure they're both correct. Both my mid-range, one at a time. This is important because it's real easy to accidentally screw one of these up, and then you get along into the tune and you're like, what the heck is going on here? So that shows that they're all good there, and there again, an overview of that. You can do a lot with the plot, so keep that one in the back of your head. Heading over to delay next. We pre-measure our driver's front seat to get all of the measurements so we know right where to put it back to in the end. Fernando goes through and writes in all my numbers, and we have some actual testing that we need to do. This is just more safety precaution stuff just to get this stuff out of the way. Then we can get on to what we really need to do, which is tune it and whatnot. Grab the PT9A pluses. We'll go into the radio, we'll do balance and fader. So down here in the software, we've turned off all the speakers except for the tweeter. And now we'll do a polarity check, and you can see our tweeter is going green, green, red. Now what you want to do is test all of the speakers, and if you have a 24 dB Linkwitz-Riley crossover, they should all be going the same direction. Now if you have a 12 dB Butterworth crossover, more than likely the mid-range will be 180. So if they're going green, green, red, that should go red, red, green. That's a whole nother conversation to have, trust me on that one. The Linkwitz-Riley is the better move, and that's what we have. Maybe up front we'll also have to test one more thing. Playing some pink noise, we're gonna go into the EQ settings on the radio, go to the sound settings, go to the balance and fader. This is the most important thing that a lot of people screw up. Go ahead and drag it around. Make sure that the 3 speakers are playing over there. You can mute them if you need to. I can hear mine going on over here. If you notice, we took the grills off. It just made it easier with the tweeter. You really have to get up on that thing in these early stages before you start to set gains and stuff. Your rears, make sure that they're both working the way they're supposed to. They are. And the nice thing about this Ford is this little button right here that says reset. That puts everything back in the center. The other thing you have to do, of course, is make sure your subwoofer works, which it does, and that's easy enough. Play some pink noise. Make sure you have coming out of it. Now that we know that everything is working the way it's supposed to, meaning all the speakers are moving, everything has got sound, everything's got polarity, we need to tune it. But before we can tune it, we need to put the car back together again, because yeah, you can be rest assured that having this off, there's outside noise. We want to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. Put the floor mats back in. Everything that came in, well, okay, not the trash and stuff like that, but all the interior needs to go back into the car. Back of the car is all put back together. This is our access hole, so I can reach down in here, pull out our DSP wire. There is a cover for that, which I'll show you in the very end. close it up. The one thing that you need to deal with is this piece of plastic right here. If you're adding a subwoofer to the door, yeah, this thing just rattles. This is a common thing for this. I've seen people that have like done the floor in these things. I think just doing every panel inside of this car would probably be the best bet. Then again, it's a Bronco. It's like a Jeep. I don't know what you're hoping for. What we do to this panel is just some simple foam all the way around.
Yeah, this one actually holds the metal, so if you put foam, you know, pushes it up, so it gets tight. And this is the outside, this is the inside.
Do you put fuzzies on here, or are these okay?
I'm going to put some JK tapes, the fuzzy ones, in the clips right here, and just when it snaps.
Let's talk about our tuning process and how we deal with something like this. There's a couple different ways to do it. Do what you're comfortable with. This is ours. The first thing we do is we mute all of the speakers by using the mute all feature here, and then I unmute the passenger front tweeter. And I start tuning it and working it and doing all kinds of fun things with it. This is not how it started, but this is how it ended up. After we get done with that, the cool thing is you just take a screenshot of it on the DMRTA, and then it'll ghost the image into here, and next you're going to work on the driver's tweeter. And if you'll notice, when you look at the ghosted in image, the volume on this is lower, and the reason for that is it's the closest tweeter to you. We're not worried about that until we get into the car. So when we started out, these two were perfectly level, and also this was much more smoothed out. The thing you have to keep in mind is that when we do the first EQ, we're trying to get this flat. We're removing something like this peak, but we don't know how it's going to sound once we get it in the car. Once you get into the car though, things like this start to creep back in, because you realize that by removing that energy, it doesn't necessarily sound as good as you thought it might, because you were just looking at a plot on an RTA. So as we move through, you make minor adjustments here and there to add back in or remove things that are causing issues. And when you're all done with this portion of it, this is, you know, you're just doing a very plain thing, and that's just kind of leveling everything out. And then you hop into the car. The ARC Audio has center point, which allows you to start adjusting levels, which is this page right here. And as you'll notice, all the levels are different. Center point is a cool feature that allows you to move the signal left and right equally, so that as you're increasing one, you're decreasing the other. That is in the hopes that you have your delay and everything set up properly. In all of this, you can do a group delay. So we did a group delay on everything to adjust it to the subwoofer, because the subwoofer in the beginning turned out to be the farthest thing out, and originally we weren't going to add that in. And we can do an A/B comparison, making a preset with an adjustment and without, and then we can A/B between the two while we're in the car and see, does adding the delay to the mid bass actually enhance the subwoofer? And it did. It made the soundstage open up, which was great, because Fernando was freaking out about that. So sometimes when you're looking at the RTA, you come up with some weird stuff that this looks good, but it sounds like crap in the car. So you have to go back in to the EQ and start adjusting things. In this case, the cool thing about Link All Channels, which is located here, is now I can go in and I can make an adjustment on one page, and it'll adjust all of the other pages. If I wanted to remove something, I could go in and remove it, and it would do left, right, rear, sub, the whole thing. If I didn't want the subs in it, because like, why would I want them? I could just come over here, click those two off, and now they're not in my adjustment. So you can go in and you can make individual adjustments, group adjustments, pick your group adjustments, and all those lead to, this is a starting point, this is the ending point. Spend just as much time here as we do here. Or we spend just as much time in here as we do here, because you never know. You know, you're just looking at a graph, and the graph, it can't see subtleties between there. And like, I know someone's gonna look at that and go, Jesus, that 6.8 is, yeah, well, it was flat, and guess what? It didn't sound good. It sounded lifeless and bland. We had cut it substantially. That's not a boost, that's actually just the natural tweeter. It's a focal, let it be a focal. The other thing too is using your levels to adjust between the tweeter and the mid-range, mid-range to mid-bass, tweeter mid-range to mid-bass, front to rear, sub to everything. All of that has to be done from this seat right here, or that seat, it doesn't matter. It has to be done from inside of the vehicle. It looks really great on the plot, but then it has no life when you get in here. Making subtle adjustments between the tweeter and the mid-range and so on, like I just said, makes a huge difference in sound. The really cool thing about this car is that there is no speakers in the doors, so you could actually listen to it with the doors open if you wanted to. Let's find some DRM-free music, and we'll see what this thing sounds like. Fernando, let me ask you, does this thing just tear it up, man?
Oh, 100%.
Are your ears ringing?
What?
Exactly. Dude, this thing is serious. It's crazy loud. A couple things to think about that we may have done different had it been designed by us. The first one would have been the rear speakers. Though I love putting matching flacks front and rear, it's pretty cool. Fernando and I both agreed that sticking with the smaller 4-inch in the pod and taking the money that we spent on that and going to, let's say, some K2s up front,
100%, yeah.
Probably be cool. This system works, and it
sounds amazing.
For those people that are like, I want it all to be balanced, that would have been really the only change I would have, you know, proposed. What we started with on this particular one, with what he showed up with and what we're at now, are so many miles apart. He's gonna love this. He's gonna love this to pieces. One other thing that we need to do now that we're done with the tune is here in the back. The wheels on here are blue. He's got all his lift kit stuff that is blue. He added that sticker to his dash, that's blue. We put the blue in the top dash panels. The last piece of the puzzle is this guy here in the back of the car. That is the blue acrylic that we use for the front grills. It also matched all the stickers in the factory paint. With that piece in place, the tune done, the listen done, the battery charger's disconnected.
That's it.
We're just gonna pull this fender skirt off here, close this thing up, and get it off to the customer. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great night as always. We hope you love this Bronco build, and that's all we got for you. You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.